Well, then it will just be you I do furious jumping with.
Furious jumping. I love that.
Frankenstein's monster meets 50 Shades of Grey with very little BDSM, and is actually good. I am the Wiz! Alright everybody, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. If you like this review, please leave a like at the end of this video. And if you want to watch more, please subscribe. I do 3 reviews a week on this channel. Alright everybody, I'm here to review the 2023 sci-fi comedy Poor Things, starring Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, and Rami Youssef, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. I'm sure I got that right. If I didn't, I'm sorry. Man, I'm terrible with names. Poor Things makes a very strong and disgusting first impression. Immediately, you are in a steampunk world that is drained of color and filled with all sorts of unusual and demented things. Animals with body parts from different animals. The world is captured in a fish-eyed lens and embodied in a strange, off-kilter score that is exacting to how deliberately error-filled it feels. And then there's Bella. A grown woman in gaudy, puffy clothing with thick eyebrows and long raven hair. You notice exactly one thing about Bella. Something is off. Something is really off. And in these frames, you are introduced to one of the best performances in the past 10 years. Emma Stone plays Bella with this reckless abandon that can only be done if you strip away all of your preconceived notions of modesty and bashfulness. Why does Stone have to perform this way as Bella? Well, the story of Poor Things is that Bella is a Frankenstein's monster created by Dr. Goodwin Baxter, played in heavy makeup by Willem Dafoe. How did Baxter create Bella? Well, Baxter found Bella pregnant after she committed suicide by jumping off of a bridge. Realizing he can bring the woman back to life, he took the brain out of the dead woman, took the brain out of the baby, and inserted it into the dead woman. This essentially means that Bella is a fully grown woman physically with the developmental brain of a baby. At first, Stone plays Bella as just a baby in a body of a grown woman. Awkwardly moving, stunted talking, temper tantrums. Physically, it's impressive. But the film quickly goes into a different direction. Remember, Bella is in the body of a grown woman, and a grown woman has needs. Sexual needs. I mention these plot points in the terms of Stone's performance because she expertly blends all these aspects of the character. Bella has the issue of having no social mores or concepts of the world around her. She is essentially a child mentally. But Stone happens to capture the feminine nature of Bella as a woman so well, and also the curious nature of a child, that at some point during the film, Bella felt strangely like a real person. I know it's an old saying when it comes to acting, but it surely fits here. Emma Stone is no longer there. It's just Bella. I can go on for hours as to why this performance is exceptional, but know this. Aside from one other actress, this is the best performance this decade so far. So let's get past Stone and her performance. What about the rest of the film? Poor Things is a fascinatingly thoughtful and hilarious film. Bella is gloriously profane in this film, using colloquialisms, describing sexual encounters, and often uproariously graphic detail. Mark Ruffalo, who plays the man she runs away with, offers kind of a strange straight man to Bella's absolute lunacy, and his reactions and overreactions are comedic gold throughout. Watching Bella going through her sexual awakening stage is both hilarious and interesting. That's not only because of how Stone performs these scenes, but in the questions it poses to the viewers throughout. Of course, we can discuss the social acceptance of sex and being prudent in appearance, but also, is there a moral culpability with the men that Bella had sex with, namely Ruffalo's character? The reason is that only Godwin and his assistant knows what Bella truly is. No one else really does. But Bella acts so strangely that she could be conceived as mentally challenged. But Bella's behavior could also be of someone who lacks moral character, something that Ruffalo's character has very little, really, honestly, none of. But the thing that kept coming to my mind when the film stayed between Stone and Ruffalo is the way infantilization plays a role in the way some relationships are conceived. Even though Bella is developing mentally rather quickly, she still has the brain of a child. And yet, because society dictates in some ways that women should infantilize themselves to help make their man feel important or valued, Poor Things feels like a rather elaborate way to have this discussion. I honestly love films that are this thoughtful and interesting, and I was thoroughly enjoying Poor Things. But there comes a point in the film where that thoughtfulness started to wane. And that's specifically when Bella starts working in a brothel. At this point, Bella becomes more contemplative about a lot of different things. It's at this point where the comedy slows down and the film moves into Bella having a maturation stage. In fairness, this part of the film makes sense. Bella's brain is maturing to a point where she's starting to reach her teens and 20s. She's starting to think about her life and what her thoughts and desires are. It's meant to be a point of empowerment for the character to define who she is without the influence of the men who have coddled and shielded her. But this part of the film doesn't feel nearly as thoughtful. The film kind of eases into a sex as form of female empowerment that doesn't exactly click into place for me as it did for some. But honestly, I feel like the only way that female empowerment through sex is really shown is her inability to feel shame for her sexual exploration, which honestly is a good thing, but I don't think they really put much into that end. Now, I'm not saying that this is a bad part of the film, it's just not as good as the beginning parts. This part of the film just doesn't land as hard for me. But I will say that visually, Poor Things is stunning. Everything from the way the film is shot, to the way that color is used to represent Bella's maturation, to the costumes and production design, is beautiful and striking throughout. I would say one of the best scenes visually is on the ship, where you see the ocean and the sky in this weirdly striking watercolor-like visual. I would also say the ship as well is very striking with its ornate designs and colors. The world that Lanthimos created was beautiful, even if some of the visuals in the film can get rather ghastly. Honestly, Poor Things is stunning in many ways. It has an amazing performance by Emma Stone and a story that is intelligently thought out and hilarious in most of the film. Even though the final act didn't hit as hard for me as it did for some, Poor Things is a creatively funny film that turns a nightmare into a tale of discovery and empowerment. Alright, so before I can get into my rating, let me tell you what other people think about this film. Letterboxd users has it at a score of 4 out of 5. Rotten Tomatoes has it at a score of 93% fresh. And this was nominated for 10 Oscars with 4 Oscar wins, including Best Actress for Emma Stone, much deserved, by the way. Also for makeup and hairstyling, again, well deserved. Production design, again, well deserved. And costume design. And this was also nominated for Best Picture that year. I am giving this movie a 4 out of 5. Honestly, I was debating on whether I was going to do a 4.5 out of 5, but I really have to note that I think the third act didn't hit as well as the first 2 acts. Now, I'm not saying that I think that the third act is bad. For me, it just didn't hit that well. But honestly, this film was really good. Honestly, I was apprehensive watching this film because I kept hearing about how disgusting this film was. And honestly, there's really only one scene that I found disgusting, and that was the initial surgery on Bella, put her brain in. Once you get past that, unless you really do not like sex and sex talk in a movie, I found the rest of it just to be very funny and very creatively well done. Emma Stone is amazing in this movie. Save for one performance this decade so far, this is the best performance in the decade. It is an incredible performance by Emma Stone in this one. I also really like the visuals, and I like the story when it's centered around Emma Stone's character and Mark Ruffalo's character. But once that ends in the third act, I feel like the film isn't as funny or as thoughtful as the first 2 acts were. But this was a really good movie. I will probably watch this again some other time. Honestly, I might watch this before the end of the year just to see if maybe it will change my mind a little bit to a 4.5 out of 5. I really like this movie. So again, 4 stars out of 5 for me for Poor Things. It is on Amazon Prime if you are interested. And if you can handle some of the visuals, you should check it out. This was a great movie. Alright guys, so here's a question I have for you. What is the best performance so far this decade? Is it Emma Stone from Poor Things, or is it what my favorite is, which is Cate Blanchett in Tar? Let me know in the comments what you think and what your answer is. Alright guys, that's the end of the review. Thank you for watching. See you guys next time.
I took his money, I thanked him, I laughed all the way to buy us these eclairs, and I thought so fondly, remembering the fierce, sweaty nights of ours.
Fuck for money.